July 1969. The entire world was holding its breath. Americans sat in front of their televisions. Children watched special programs at school, and newspapers prepared giant headlines for the next morning. Humanity was about to take its first step onto the moon. But history did not unfold the way it was supposed to. Just hours before the lunar landing, communication with the spacecraft was suddenly lost. Scientists tried everything. Engineers worked around the clock, but no response ever came. Hours turned into days. Then came the announcement. The mission had failed. The 3 astronauts would never return to Earth. Instead of celebration, silence fell across America. People looked up at the night sky, searching the stars for the 3 men who had disappeared beyond reach. One of them was Captain David Anderson, and somewhere on Earth, a 7-year-old boy clutched his father's photograph and cried. His name was Jack Anderson. The years passed. The lost moon mission became the greatest failure in American history. Government funding for space exploration was drastically reduced. People slowly stopped dreaming. The word moon was no longer a symbol of hope. It became a symbol of loss.
The years passed. The lost moon mission became the greatest failure in American history. Government funding for space exploration was drastically reduced. People slowly stopped dreaming. The word moon was no longer a symbol of hope. It became a symbol of loss.
Jack grew up carrying that loss with him. Every night, he watched an old video of his father. In it, David Anderson said, "Dreams are never left unfinished. One person starts them, and another finishes them." Those words became engraved in Jack's heart. 1981. Jack was now a high school student. One afternoon, he sat alone in the library reading a book about his father. Suddenly, a girl stopped beside his table. She had golden hair, calm eyes, and a book in her hands. "Are you Captain David Anderson's son?" she asked. Jack nodded. "Yes." The girl smiled. "My name is Emily. I've read every book written about your father." Jack was surprised. Most people had forgotten about his father. But she hadn't. That day, they spoke for the first time. And from that moment began a story that would never appear in history books.
Jack and Emily quickly became close friends. They spent afternoons walking through parks, studying together in libraries, and sharing dreams about the future. One day Emily asked, "Do you ever want to go to the moon?" Jack thought for a moment. "I don't just want to go to the moon," he said. "I want to finish what my father started." Emily looked at him quietly. At that moment, she realized his dream was unlike any other. As time passed, friendship slowly became something deeper. Neither of them said it aloud. But both of them knew. One autumn evening, they sat together on a hilltop watching the sunset. The sky was painted orange and gold. Emily broke the silence. "What if one day you leave for space?" Jack smiled. "Then I'll find you among the stars." Emily smiled too. But behind her smile was fear. Because she knew he might truly leave someday.
1988. Jack entered university to study aerospace engineering. He had only one goal. To become an astronaut. Classes, research, training, he gave everything he had. Many nights passed without sleep. Many failures stood in his way. But he never quit. Because every time he looked in the mirror, he saw his father's face staring back at him. Emily was building her own future as well. Yet no matter how busy life became, they never drifted apart. Phone calls. Letters. Short visits. Each one brought them closer together. One day Emily wrote him a letter. It said, "Among billions of people on Earth, there is one person whose dream I believe in as if it were my own. Jack kept that letter for years. 1996. A historic announcement shook the nation. America was going back to the moon. Excitement spread across the country. Thousands applied for the astronaut program. Jack was one of them. The selection process was brutal.
Physical endurance. Mental resilience. Technical expertise. Every skill imaginable was tested. Months passed. Then one day, the phone rang. Jack had been selected. He was officially an astronaut. That night, the first person he called was Emily. "I made it," he said. There was silence on the other end. Then Emily's voice trembled. "I knew you would." Jack realized she was crying. Partly from happiness. And partly from fear. The years of training began. Every day was dangerous. Every day reminded him that his father had once walked the same path. One evening after training, Jack stood outside beneath the stars. The moon shone brightly overhead. And for a moment, he felt as though his father's dream was still waiting there. As launch day approached, Emily became increasingly anxious. She never spoke about it. But every night before sleeping, she whispered the same prayer. "Please let him come back home." July 1999. Launch day. Thousands gathered to watch. Millions more watched on television. Jack stood ready in his spacesuit. Minutes before the countdown, he was allowed one final meeting with his loved ones. Emily was there. Her eyes were wet, but she smiled. Jack reached into his pocket and pulled out an old envelope. It was the letter Emily had written years ago. Inside, he had added a single new line. Handing it back to her, he said, "If I'm late coming home, read this." Emily nodded quietly. The countdown began. 10. 9. 8. The world held its breath. 3. 2. 1. Ignition. The engines roared. The ground shook. Slowly, the spacecraft climbed into the sky. Emily watched until it became nothing more than a tiny point of light. A few days later, the mission successfully entered lunar orbit. The world erupted with excitement. Then came the defining moment. Jack Anderson stepped onto the moon. 30 years after a dream had been lost, a new chapter of history was written. He knelt down and placed a small metal plaque into the lunar soil. The inscription read, "For those who began the journey but never lived to see its end."
Back on Earth, Emily watched through tears. But they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of pride. The mission was a success. The journey home began. The entire world waited. Finally, the spacecraft landed safely on Earth. Celebrations erupted everywhere. History had finally begun to heal its oldest wound. A few weeks later, on a quiet evening, Jack and Emily returned to the same hill where they had once watched the sunset together. Above them hung a bright full moon. Jack smiled softly. "Remember what I told you?" Emily looked at him. "I said I'd find you among the stars." Emily laughed through her tears. Then she rested her head on his shoulder. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Because some feelings are greater than words. Above them, the moon shone peacefully. And below it stood two people who had proven something remarkable. History can change. Dreams can break. But when hope and love are real, they can survive even time itself.